We're going to talk about a little bit of the fallout from Knicks versus Pacers. Andrew, I know you had a few points that you wanted to make and float out there, so I'll give you the stage.
Yeah, so I just wanted to give more credit to the Indiana Pacers because on this podcast they've been on the lower end of our totem pole just because the fact that we just hadn't been very high on them all season long, and we both picked against them in each of the 3 series that they've played so far. So I wanted to give them their due credit because they have been a fun team to watch. I've just personally enjoyed the whole playoffs, and Indiana basketball has been an actual delight to watch. So I just wanted to throw out a couple of stats that I found really interesting that I was seeing like just when I was scrolling through Instagram and whatnot. So they scored 74 points. They had a plus 74 point differential in points in transition, just showing how good they are when they get out running. Tyrese Halliburton just being able to get good outlet passes and get like a lot of people involved was so like important during the series. The fact that they had such a deep bench kind of played into that as well. Andrew Nembhard's defense on Jalen Brunson was like damn near exceptional, and he's been playing good defense all all playoffs long. I had a couple of stats about Damian Lillard in the first round. When Andrew Nembhard was the primary defender on Damian Lillard, he shot 23% from field goal percentage, and then 14% from 3. Donovan Mitchell in the second round, when Andrew Nembhard was the primary defender, he shot 23% from field goal range, and then 16.7% from 3. And then Jalen Brunson, these numbers are a little bit higher, but still below his averages. He shot 38% from the field goal percentage and 30% from 3. So Andrew Nembhard was one of the better perimeter defenders against some of the best guards in the league, and I just wanted to give him his props. And the Pacers, I want to throw this out to you. The Pacers are 7-0 when Caitlin Clark is in attendance, so there's a Caitlin Clark effect too. So some fun stats I saw around, and I want to give the Pacers a little bit more credit than they've been getting on the podcast so far.
Has she really been to 7 games?
She has been, yeah. I feel like she got a lot more coverage that last one, but she's been to 7.
Yeah, because I know like her and Tyrese Halliburton are, pretty good friends at least, or they're at least icons for Indiana teams. So I didn't even know that it had been 7 games. I knew that it had been a few, but hopefully she could be there for game 1 of the NBA Finals. Yeah, we maybe have been a little bit low. I kind of disagree. I think we've kind of come around a little bit on the Indiana Pacers as the playoffs have went on. So I'm like less low on them than I was at the start of these playoffs, because obviously I picked the Bucks if they were healthy to beat the Pacers. But since that moment and since they took care of that Bucks team, I feel like they've been a really good squad going through the Cavs and through the Knicks. So I'm glad you at least gave them some love, though. I know there were some people talking about it.
Yeah, I also wanted to mention that they have the second best record in the NBA since January 1st, only 3 games behind the team that they're playing in the finals, OKC. So that's something to be said too. The fact that they have been doing this for an extended period of time too, especially after that rough start. I feel like they were 10-15 at one point. They just got off to a really slow start to the season. I just wanted to give them their props and shout them out a little bit more, because Indiana basketball, it's like one of the like smaller markets in like basketball, but one of the most passionate fan bases. And I know that we haven't like done them their complete due justice. I know
Tyrese Halliburton a superstar?
Yeah, I haven't. So that's another reason why I wanted to maybe get on the good side of some Pacers fans, because I know that maybe some of my takes aren't appeasing to them too much.
Yeah, I mean, I've been high on Tyrese Halliburton. I think that's been my main opinion on this Pacers team. But yeah, Pascal Siakam played lights out in the conference finals. So got to also give props to him. This team is very deep, and it's a battle of the 2 potentially deepest teams that were in the playoffs this year, the Indiana Pacers and Oklahoma City Thunder. Let's move to the Knicks, because obviously this is more about like the fallout of that conference final series, getting us geared up here for the rest of the NBA season and the off season. Was there anything that you saw there with the Knicks that would potentially like catch your eye as far as the way that they move forward?
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that like Tibbs is so like uninclined to use his bench until like the very end of that series was so interesting, because you could just tell their starters kind of ran out of gas. Mikal Bridges coming into a new team and also like assuming a completely different role throughout the course of like a full season this year is just like interesting, because he went from more of a like not dominant scorer, but like the leading scorer on that Nets team, and just assuming a different role towards the end of his son's timeline. And then he just took a complete step back, at least offensively this season, because he had to. There were just so many good players on that team. OG Anunoby kind of fitting into like a bigger role than he was in Toronto. Obviously, he assumed a bigger role, but like they just all were playing different roles than they were at, like besides like Kat and Karl Anthony and Jalen Brunson towards the end of that series. or just in general for the Knicks team. So I think it's just interesting the way they went about playing, and there weren't any critiques until they lose. But I mean, it kind of feels like that team just ran out of steam towards the end. The fact that they weren't using their bench is kind of feels like that was part of it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that there's a time to say that the way that Tibbs coaches may not be sustainable for long playoff runs. And I was happy that they did go into that bench. We talked about that at the end of game 5, but it just seemed too little too late. And then obviously just the Indiana Pacers, you're going against them, as I just mentioned, one of the deepest teams in the playoffs in all of the NBA. So you're kind of just trying to switch things up, and then the other team just simply does it better. Karl Anthony Towns, I felt like he played pretty well in that series against the Pacers. I felt like he had an aggressive mindset against their bigs, and he was really good. Jalen Brunson, I don't buy into this whole thing that was getting floated around when they went down 3-1 and they were down 2-0 about him not being the best player on the championship team. I definitely think he could get really close to that, and I'm not ruling that out whatsoever right now. But I don't think that his size is, while it is a concern, I don't think that you can potentially not have a defender that helps him out throughout the playoffs. And I think going into your bench can potentially help him a lot. And I was disappointed that Tibbs didn't do that, at least
Yeah.
earlier in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think we were both more mild mannered about like Jalen Brunson's performances. I know a lot of people were getting really reckless with the stuff that they were saying, especially when they went down 2-0 or 3-1, just about his defensive abilities and like how big of a liability that is. But yeah, I think that Jalen Brunson is still one of the best players in the NBA, and he's been doing it for like consistently for an extended period of time now. So, and like when he gets going, he's the clutch player of the year for a reason. In that fourth quarter, when he starts heating up, he is like one of the best players in the NBA. So I don't want to take too much away from him. I just think that this Knicks team as a whole kind of ran out of gas towards the end of this season, and it happens like that. The way the Pacers play, they kind of force that out of you too, because they use so many guys and they play a full court press style more reminiscent of college. You don't see too many NBA teams doing it. They're younger teams, so they can do it more often. And does that gas you out? Yeah, it does. When you're having to play 94 feet every single possession, it makes you tired. And like that Knicks team is slightly, maybe not significantly, but it's definitely older than that Pacers team. And the fact that they're using their bench as well, it might have been time for the Knicks.